I'm Josh Thompson, and you're listening to Gospel Tangents.
The best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. I'm excited to have Josh Thompson on the show. We're going to talk about the new movie Heretic. By the way, it comes out on Tuesday on streaming, so you don't even have to go to the theater anymore. You can watch it on Amazon Prime, Netflix, Disney Plus, lots of those places. So anyway, we're going to give our movie review. I'll give you a hint. One of us liked it and one of us didn't. So I don't want to give away too much, but here's our movie review. Well, let's talk about movie reviews then.
Okay.
Have you seen Heretic?
I have seen. I went and watched it. Yeah. And people in my community, if they see this podcast, I'm going to say something that might shock people. I'm a huge horror fan, enthusiast. I only tell my closest friends in our religion that, because it's not.
No, you just told the whole world.
It's not accepted. No, I just told the whole world. I'm trying to stop, and I actually mean that. I am opposed to watching horror movies, so I'm just throwing it out. It's a weakness. I've always had it. Halloween was a huge thing in my family growing up.
Okay. So what did you think? Good movie, bad movie?
I personally did not like it, both from a horror perspective and just the discussions in it. So I wouldn't say that I hated it. I enjoyed it because it was new. It was really interesting. Throwing in these dialogues that they were having, it made it really intriguing. But at the same time, and I feel like most Mormons that are into apologetics will probably agree with me, the points that were brought up are just kind of old news. There's not really nothing that really blew anybody away. I mean, it would probably be good for people that are new to the material, or a person that's part of the church that hasn't heard anything. It might convince them that it's false. But those that are used to this stuff, it's really old news.
So you thought it was just kind of cliched, basically?
I wouldn't. Well, that part was cliche. I didn't like it because it was obvious that the intent was to show flaws in Mormonism. And I don't like anything that has a purpose to show.
Do you think it was a Mormon movie, or was it a movie about religion in general?
I think they tried to paint it as religion in general, but I think that it came from more of a perspective of Mormonism, for sure. That's my gut feeling.
Would you call it a Mormon movie?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No. That's my perspective. I'm not going off of anything other than just my feeling that I had with it. So, but I did. It was entertaining because it was new, and it was a little fun. So
what did you think of the portrayal of the missionaries? Was it a good one or a bad one?
It was a little annoying to me because it just felt too unrealistic.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. When Hugh Grant's character, I don't know his name of the movie, when he brings up polygamy. Mr. Reed. He brings up polygamy.
Mr. Reed.
And yeah. And you see the look on the girl's face, like they're just blown away, like this grand thing that he's talking about. I mean, everybody knows about polygamy. This is nothing new. And it's not even that difficult to talk about, at least with the people that I've talked about within the church. It's just not a thing. So I felt like...
Well, you didn't get rid of it in 1890.
Yeah. I suppose that actually is true. And to be honest, I hadn't really considered that. But just kind of seeing the comments that, Jacob Hansen is. He's
sort
like
of. I don't know,
a pretty famous Mormon apologist right now. But on his Facebook page there, people talk about it. And I kind of get the same impression from them. It was over dramatized to make it seem negative. And the arguments are just kind of old.
Should I give my review?
Yeah, let's hear
it. So I was pleasantly surprised.
Because it was better than you thought?
It was, yeah, I didn't think, would you call it an anti-Mormon movie? Would you say it was anti-Mormon?
I believe it was anti-Mormon.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
See, I didn't see that at all.
Yeah?
I didn't see that at all. I was pleasantly surprised. I think the opening scene, I'm not saying that would never happen, but I thought it was very unusual.
It was unusual.
It was, the opening scene was very unusual. A couple sister missionaries talking about something that most sister missionaries probably don't talk about, or even elders. Yeah. I don't think elders would talk about it either. I'll try not to give away too many spoilers, but and then the other part where the And I saw a review on this, and they were like, "Oh, that could happen." And I was like, because I remember watching the movie, and an elder comes to Mr. Reed's house looking for the sisters, and he was by himself. I'm like, "Where's his companion?" Like, this is messed up. You don't go anywhere without your companion. So those are the only two things that I thought were slight misses.
Yeah.
But I thought the portrayal of the sisters was excellent. I thought they portrayed Mormon missionaries very well.
Yeah.
You know, when Mr. Reed asked them about polygamy and Joseph Smith, I could just imagine myself, because that never actually happened to me, but I could imagine somebody asking me and being like, "Oh, this is not something I want to talk about."
Yeah.
Which was kind of their reaction as well. Like, "Oh, brother."
I wonder if the way that I feel really is just because of just the way that that I was raised in it.
Yeah, maybe.
That.
I know, and I mean, you know, I did think it was strange. We did have some sister missionaries. I went on my mission in South Carolina. I will tell you, before I went, there was a murder of sister missionaries in South Carolina, and they actually pulled the sisters out of the mission for a few years.
Yeah.
When I went, we had sister missionaries. Almost all of them had cars. So I did find it a little strange that they were lugging their bicycles around. I remember there was one set of missionaries that had bicycles. So to me, that was a little unusual because, I mean, I had a bike. I was on a bike for almost half my mission. But the sisters, it seems like the two sisters that had them, like, requested them. They wanted to be on bike. But normally, and I think it was partially because for protection. But, some sister missionaries had been killed in South Carolina by kind of a Mr. Reed character, like a psycho, crazy guy. But yeah, I mean, I liked the movie. To me, it was suspenseful. I was shocked. No swearing, not a cuss word at all. There was no nudity at all, not even implied.
Yeah.
I thought the violence was no worse than Stranger Things. I was like, this should be a PG-13. Why is this rated R? I have no idea. There was a little bit of gore, but to me, it wasn't over the top. It wasn't terrible. I've seen worse movies.
Yeah.
So I liked it. On the one hand, just as a suspense movie, there was this part about Monopoly that I just thought was hilarious.
I was putting down the board games on the table.
Yeah, we were putting the board games on the table. I thought that was so funny. But and I could get his point. But like you, because I saw so many people on Facebook like, this is so profound. I'm like, profound? What was profound about it? There was nothing profound about it.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
To me, it was like, your typical anti-religion arguments. I wouldn't to me, it was more about religion in general. It wasn't about Mormonism. I mean, there was some, their sister missionaries is going to have some Mormonism in it.
Yeah.
And I thought they portrayed Mormonism very well, very fair.
So you didn't feel like, because
the butterfly reincarnation thing I thought was a little weird. But
yeah.
Sorry, I gave away a spoiler there. But
did you feel like, because this is kind of my feeling on it, is that they portray the LDS missionaries in the movie like they're just kind of incompetent about their own religion. And it just kind of bugs me.
Oh,
but
really?
Maybe that's just kind of a difference in our perspectives, because in our beliefs,
well, I was incompetent as a missionary. Especially as I look at it now, later. I mean, I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
And well, I'm interviewing I have a planned interview with a guy named Dr. Ryan Cragen.
Yeah.
I can't wait for. And so I've just finished his book, Goodbye Religion. And so it's been really interesting, especially coming from that, because he's looking at reasons why people leave religion. So I can see Mr. Reed, Hugh Grant's character kind of in this book as well. And so, but I thought it wasn't the movie wasn't like atheism good, religion bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the ending is kind of vague. I think purposely vague. And they didn't make Mr. Reed look like a good guy. Like he was not a good guy.
Yeah.
And so I didn't view it as anti-Mormon. It was more like, hey, we want you to think about some things. So the person I went with thought it was really great, but it was my daughter.
Yeah.
and she got, from her point of view, I mean, she's about the same age as the missionaries in the movie.
Yeah.
So she thought it was really profound, and I was like, I don't think it was all that profound. It might be profound. Oh, that was the thing that I was going to point out. With Goodbye Religion, this said the atheists knew more about religion than any other group, and the third I think it was atheists, if I remember right, atheists, agnostics, and then Mormons.
Yeah.
And then there was kind of a drop-off with the Protestants and the Catholics and everything, and I was like, yeah, Mormons do know more about religion than most. I was surprised the atheists beat us out.
Yeah. That's interesting. It reminds me of that.
But I, like you, I didn't find the anti-religion arguments very compelling.
Yeah.
It felt a lot of the same old.
Yeah.
But I did feel like it was a fair portrayal. It was a good, I mean, the missionaries come out pretty good, I thought.
Yeah. Okay.
So
I definitely interpreted the movie very different than you did.
So, but yeah, I don't agree with all the people that are like, oh, so profound.
Yeah.
I did see a couple reviews that were like, well, it's like the temple. And I was like,
no.
And then you have to think in a strange way to get there. But as a thriller, I thought it was fun. It was a fun movie. It was creepy for sure. Like I would recommend it. I've been recommending it to my friends.
Yeah.
But it wasn't profound.
Yeah.
It was just like, go see Alien or something.
That's essentially how I felt, just coupled with the fact that I felt like they were just subtly trying to imply that Mormons were stupid. That's just kind of what annoyed me about it all. Yeah. Did you not get that impression?
At the beginning of the movie, you could get that. But at the end, the missionaries outsmarted them, right?
Yeah, I guess they do beat.
So I didn't get that they were stupid because they outsmarted them at the end. So, spoiler.
Yeah. Talking about this actually brings to mind another little difference that we have. It seems like in the LDS church, and that's just my observation, tell me if you feel differently, but the missionaries go on missions to essentially get their testimonies. That's really backwards for us in our way of thinking. You should only go on a mission if you have a firm testimony and you're really knowledgeable and you know the arguments and you know how to talk and things like that.
Well, I remember a missionary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that it's an interesting point that you bring up, because I think originally it was, hey, you needed to know. If you go back to 1830, nobody knew anything. Like they just got the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
I feel the testimony. I feel called to preach. And so they were unqualified to teach, but who else was there? Who else was there to teach? Nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
It was a brand new book. But over time it became every member a missionary, and who the Lord calls, the Lord qualifies.
Yeah.
And I think what you say is a fair statement. Because there are people that go out there that they're going just because their parents want them to go.
Yeah.
And they were annoying to deal with on the mission because they weren't there for the right reason.
Yeah.
But so in some ways, yes, it is a testimony builder for a lot of people, but not for everybody.
Yeah. I'd say it seems like most people, when they come back from their mission, they eventually leave the LDS church. It's just the way it goes nowadays. That's been my impression, at least on my Mormon friends and circles that I'm associated with. It feels like eventually anybody in Mormonism eventually leaves because there's just so much anti-stuff out there now.
I would quibble with most.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are some,
Mhm.
but you look at the statistics. The reason why they want people to go on missions is because they're more likely to stick.
No, okay.
Yeah.
That makes me happy to hear that if that's the case.
Yeah.
Because all I can base off is just my own social circles and people that I knew
You
growing up.
don't rely on Facebook for your information.
Yeah, that's true.
So, because I mean, this brings up Jana Reese's book, The Next Mormons, which has been out for a few years. She's coming out with a sequel here. Hopefully. Yeah. I'd love to have her back on. But the point is, the internet is full of angry ex-Mormons that are like, the church screwed me over and they're wrong about this. They lied about polygamy and they lied about, whatever, and the race ban and whatever. But most people, and this is what Jana's research says, and I think Ryan Cragen's does as well, most people are just like, it wasn't doing anything for me. I don't have anything against the church. It just wasn't important in my life. So why am I going to spend 2 or 3 hours, or not 5? I'm glad.
Yeah.
Why not watch football game on Sunday? Or, hey, my spouse is Presbyterian and she likes her church and I don't really care, so I'll go with her.
Yeah.
You don't get that on Facebook. You don't get the people who, they don't have a strong testimony in Mormonism or Catholicism or whatever it is. I mean, some do.
Yeah.
But the people who leave generally are just like, I'd rather go ride my bike on Sunday or go for a run or whatever. That's not what you hear on Facebook.
Yeah.
They're the quiet leavers. And
that makes me happy to hear that.
So, this book, Goodbye Religion, it's not about, it's not focused on Mormons. It's focused on everybody. I shouldn't be giving this away, but for those of you who want to watch it, who makes the most money? What religion makes the most money? It was shocking to me. Hindus. I was like, really?
Interesting.
Hindus make the most money.
Yeah. Like through businesses or charity type things?
They had a chart in there about who makes the most money. I was like, Hindus? Who? Really?
Fascinating. Yeah.
I had no idea. So, I don't remember even why that was, but I remember being struck by that, but like, who would have thunk?
Yeah.
But anyway, I think Facebook, you get all the people that are angry and whatever, and church is bad, and Christianity's bad, and Baptists are bad, and Pentecostals are bad, whatever, Catholicism bad, whatever. I'm a stat guy. We talk about sampling bias, tremendous sampling bias on Facebook.
Yeah.
You don't hear the people that are like, you know what, I'd rather see the Cowboys play on Sunday. And not that NFL is a religion. You could argue it. Yeah. You could argue that Republicans and Democrats are a religion right now. People getting so tied up in that. But most people, the majority of people, just like quietly go away. And so
I don't know how I feel about that. It brings to mind a talk that somebody gave on dealing with anti-Mormon literature. There's Tiny talks about how there's levels. There's people that just are ignorant of the complications and issues in Mormon history, and they choose to be that way. And there's the people that are really involved in it and end up leaving. But then there's the people that get involved with it and it actually builds their testimony. And those are the people that, they either become fundamentalist or they're able to kind of make things work and have explanations in their own religion. So I think it's important to know the issues. And I think when people really dig, 9 times out of 10, the issues aren't issues. I really don't. I feel like there's a big movement in the LDS church, not condoned by the leadership at all, but a progmo, like progressive Mormons. And there's this massive push, even when it comes to Mormon history and trying to rewrite it. And that's why I get on Facebook a lot, because I feel like we're tarnishing the name of Joseph Smith. I feel like even in this couple instances where like that seems really weird because of who Joseph Smith was, I have absolute faith that what he did was in accordance with God's word. and that eventually we'll understand it more. I refuse to believe anything negative. I can't do it. And I feel like the progressive movement in the church is destroying the reputation of Joseph Smith in the name of academics. And I don't like it.
All right. Well, anything else you want to share before I let you go?
I was raised with 3 moms. So, I mean, I grew up in this way of life as well. It's the only life I've ever known. So.
What do you want to share about that?
I mean, I have like 30 some odd siblings, massive family. And then I got, I don't know how many. A lot of them ended up joining the LDS church, and then subsequently left the LDS church. I think there's a few more left. And I got one sister that stayed in the AUB. So there's me and my sister are the only ones that ended up staying here.
The only ones out of 30?
Yep. Yeah.
Where do you fit in the middle?
I'm the oldest of my mom, and she was the 3rd wife. But I got lots of siblings that are much older than me from my dad's 1st wife.
So are you 15 out of 30, or where do you fit as far as age-wise?
Pretty, maybe a little bit above middle, but
okay.
not by much.
Not by much. Okay.
Yeah.
So 30 siblings, 2 are AUB. How many are LDS?
I don't know the exact number. One of my moms left my dad. 2 of them did actually, but one of them ended up joining the LDS church. As far as I know, she's still in the LDS church. And then I think one of her sons is in the LDS church. And I think that's it. She had a daughter that was in the LDS church, but she subsequently left as well.
Do you have a sense, do more people go from LDS to AUB or AUB to LDS? Do you have a sense for that, or is it about even?
It seems to me 9 times out of 10 when people leave the AUB, they leave religion for the most part.
Oh, okay.
Just the people that I know. But also at the same time, we definitely don't get a lot of converts, but when we do, they're always from the LDS church. I've never heard of a convert not coming from the LDS church.
Not from Centennial Park or FLDS or anything?
Oh, well, I would imagine if they came from there, there probably is that, just not that I know of, except for the Kingston ones I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Because our way of life is really hard. Like, there's no qualms about that. People coming from the outside world, if they don't have a firm testimony, they will come in here, they'll enter polygamy, and their family will subsequently be destroyed. Because you didn't grow up with it, you weren't around it, you don't understand it, you don't get the foundational principles that you have to understand that the church teaches. From what I understand, I could be wrong on this, but I actually think that if you're trying to join our group, one of the things that they ask is, were you a member of the LDS church? That's kind of the hope, that you have those foundational principles to even begin with.
So Kingston, would that be good enough?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't even know what they believe, except for I know that they're good at the United Order, apparently. So.
I would just be curious how much group migration there is between Centennial Park and that. I mean, it was so strange when I went to Missouri, and they were like, AUB, Centennial Park, whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow.
But that would be really cool, though. When that was happening,
I was the ward clerk in the LDS church.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that is. but I'm not surprised. I know that they're out there, and they always have been. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that area out there actually used to pretty much just be AUB.
That's what I hear.
You're aware of that. Yeah. Some changes started slowly occurring, and eventually people were called from Missouri to come to Utah, and those that stayed at the AUB came here, and those that stayed ended up staying
became
here.
Independent.
Yeah, became independent. So.
Well, it's interesting because people are like, what group is this? I'm like, it's not a group.
Yeah.
They're independent. So you could book it.
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Actually, I can see that mentality too. And I don't know a lot of independents, but I would imagine that it comes, the idea of being an independent and having that, it comes from Lauren C. Woolley, I want to say, especially really taught that we should not form as a collective body to fully separate from the church. It was just kind of like an underground group people getting together. And I think that mentality is carried over because the largest group of fundamentalists are independents, from what I understand. And I think that's why they choose to not be a part of a group. I don't know if you've heard anything like that before.
I mean, I've talked to Ann Wild, but yeah.
Yeah.
So she's my big independent.
I've never met her, but
come to Sunstone. She usually comes.
I'll have to. I've seen pretty much all of her interviews on YouTube. I enjoy listening. And I have like all of her husband's books. It makes up 2 bookshelves. He's got a lot of them. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Josh Thompson, thank you so much for being here and sharing more about the AUB.
Been a pleasure.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Josh Thompson from the Apostolic United Brethren, or AUB. Josh, thank you so much for sitting down with me. It was awesome. Love to hang out with you more, and so we'll have to go to church sometime. That'll be a lot of fun. In the next conversation, I'm excited to have a historian named Christine Talbot, and she's going to talk about her new book on Sonia Johnson. Thanks for listening, and I hope you to continue to enjoy Gospel Tangents. Consider becoming a Patreon or go to gospeltangents.com/shop, and you can get a cool tie, a hat, or even a nice mug. You can also get a sweatshirt, so check it out at gospeltangents.com/shop.